The bold and the beautiful. Cold War in Los Angeles, Sheila Carter never begged not in the way most people did. Her version of pleading came layered in manipulation, half-truths, veiled desperation, and an eerie vulnerability that always teetered between real and rehearsed. But this time, as she stood in the dim light of I.L. Giardino's back room, her voice cracked. Her eyes, usually sharp and defiant, glistened with something raw. "Please, Deacon, don't leave me behind." She wasn't performing. Not fully. Not this time. Deacon Sharp, standing just feet away from her, couldn't respond immediately. His hands were clenched, not in anger, but in restraint. Restraint against the old gravity that Sheila still held over him. Because despite everything her crimes, her lies, her blood-soaked past, there was a piece of him that couldn't quite abandon her. Maybe it was the fire? Maybe it was the twisted loyalty that came from surviving hell together? Or maybe it was simply weakness, disguised as chemistry. But things had changed. Taylor Hayes, calm, rational, and grounded in decades of emotional war, had spent weeks planting seeds in Deacon's conscience. Her conversations weren't lectures. They were lifelines. She didn't try to convince him with judgment. She offered clarity a way out of the toxic spiral that came with loving someone like Sheila. She's not a victim, Taylor had told him. She's a survivor, yes. But she's also a destroyer. And you know it. Deacon had nodded at the time, pretending to agree, but the echo of that phrase stayed with him. Every time Sheila touched him, every time she whispered late at night about redemption and second chances, Taylor's words crept into the back of his mind like smoke. Now, as Sheila stood in front of him, undone and vulnerable, Deacon saw all three women in his life, Sheila, Taylor, and his own daughter Hope, pulling him in opposite directions. Taylor, with her steady wisdom and unshakable morals, was reason. Sheila, with her addictive danger and chaotic passion, was impulse. And Hope, though not directly involved, was his compass. Her disappointment would be unbearable if she saw him fall again. Sheila stepped forward. "You don't get to rewrite who I am to fit your guilt. You knew who I was when you let me into your bed, into your life. I never lied to you, Deacon. Not about the important things. That's a low bar, Sheila," Deacon said, his voice low, tired. Sheila's face twisted not in anger, but fear. She was losing him. She could feel it. He was slipping through her fingers, and there was nothing she could do to stop it except tell the truth, a weapon she rarely used. "I love you," she said. "I know that word doesn't mean much coming from me, but it's real. You're the only man who's ever seen me, all of me, and didn't run. You stayed. You didn't just use me. You cared. He did care. That was the problem. But caring wasn't survival. In L.A., love didn't guarantee safety. In L.A., love like theirs was a loaded gun left on the table, dangerous, reckless, waiting to go off. And Taylor, watching from the outside, could see it coming. She warned him again. At her office, in quiet tones that cut deeper than shouting ever could, she looked Deacon in the eyes and said, "You think she's changed because she cries. But crocodiles cry too when they kill." That line haunted him. He tried to pull away slowly. Fewer visits. Excuses. Nights spent alone instead of tangled up in Sheila's chaotic warmth. But Sheila noticed every step he took. And with each inch of distance, her fear twisted into paranoia. She began to spiral. She showed up uninvited. She sent long texts, voicemails that played like confessions, then accusations. Her desperation turned possessive. She told Deacon she would disappear if he left, that she would take herself out of the picture for good. He didn't believe her, not at first. But when she disappeared for 2 days without a word, something inside him snapped. He found her at the cliffs just outside Malibu, standing too close to the edge. The wind was fierce, her hair wild, her expression blank. "You don't mean this," he said. She didn't move. "I'm tired, Deacon," she said. "Tired of fighting for a place in a world that keeps telling me I don't belong. Tired of trying to prove I'm not the monster they paint me as. Tired of being told, "I don't get to feel love," he reached for her, pulled her back. And when he held her, shaking, he realized the terrible truth. He wasn't free of her. That moment undid weeks of resolve. He let her come home with him. He let her sleep in his bed again. And Taylor found out. Not from Deacon. From Ridge. Ridge had been watching closely, knowing that any weakness in Deacon's resolve could become a liability for all of them. When he saw Sheila back at Il Giardino after the Malibu incident, he pieced it together and went straight to Taylor. Taylor didn't confront Deacon with rage. She came quietly, calmly, and said, "I warned you. Not because I hate her, but because I know how she operates. She pull you under, and you won't even realize you're drowning." Deacon had no answer. Taylor turned to leave, then stopped. "I'm done trying to save you from her. If you want to go down with her, fine. But don't drag anyone else with you." It was a line in the sand. The triangle was no longer romantic. It was psychological. Three people caught in a quiet war where every glance, every silence, every absence spoke louder than words. Sheila sensed it too. She began to view Taylor not just as a rival, but a threat. She made offhand comments, thinly veiled jabs, then more direct ones. "She's always wanted to fix broken men. You're just her latest project." Taylor didn't bite, but she watched closely. And when she noticed bruises on Deacon's arm small, she asked no questions. She simply documented, prepared, because the war had shifted. It wasn't about winning Deacon's heart anymore. It was about survival, about which woman would get to rewrite his future and which would be forced to disappear. Hope got involved when she noticed her father withdrawing, when he stopped showing up for Beth's school events, when his texts became shorter, colder. She confronted him one night, eyes full of frustration. "You told me you were done with her," she said. "You swore you'd moved on. I thought I had." Deacon whispered. Hope's voice broke. "She destroy you. And when she does, I won't let her anywhere near Beth. You'll lose everything." That was the moment it clicked. Not Sheila's threats. Not Taylor's warnings. Hope's heartbreak. The next day, Deacon told Sheila to leave. For real. No soft goodbye. No promises. Just an end. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled. A smile that held a promise. This wasn't over. "I hope she was worth it," she said, "because you just threw away the one person who'd burn the world down for you." Then she walked out. The Cold War had begun. Sheila didn't strike right away. She bided her time. She watched, waited, built alliances in the shadows. She reconnected with old enemies of Taylor. She whispered in ears that still carried grudges. And slowly, like ice forming over calm water, the tension across Los Angeles began to harden. Lines were drawn, secrets traded, and at the center, Deacon caught between the woman he couldn't fix and the one who wouldn't fix him again. This wasn't a love triangle anymore. It was a power triangle, and only one woman would walk away unscathed. The bold and the beautiful, the storm around Luna. The news broke faster than anyone could have anticipated. A leak from within the prison, a blurry photo of Luna being wheeled out of the medical ward, blood on her face, her body limp, the unmistakable bulge of her pregnancy beneath a thin hospital sheet. By the time the media got hold of the story, it had already been twisted. Headlines erupted across every platform. Spencer heiress assaulted in prison, pregnancy in jeopardy, Luna's desperate bid for freedom. In Mate or Manipulator, the public reaction was instantaneous and polarized. Inside Spencer Publications, the pressure was mounting by the hour. Crisis teams were pulled from their weekends, PR strategists flooded the conference rooms, and legal advisors scoured every angle. Bill Spencer stood at the head of the long, glass table with a scowl carved deep into his face. He didn't say much, he didn't need to. Everyone knew this was a disaster. The company's name was now inseparable from the image of a bruised, pregnant woman with Spencer blood. What complicated things wasn't just the optics. It was the uncertainty. No one except maybe Luna herself knew the full truth. According to prison records, Luna had been assaulted by another inmate during a morning meal shift. She was rushed to the infirmary and treated for head trauma, bruised ribs, and a mild concussion. The fetus appeared stable, but doctors warned that another incident could be fatal. But it didn't stop there. Rumors leaked that Luna had intentionally provoked the attack. Whispers from guards suggested she'd approached the most violent prisoner in her cell block and instigated the confrontation. She wanted out, one anonymous staffer claimed. She was desperate to get moved to the hospital. Everyone could see it coming. The theory ignited. Was Luna playing the system? Was the assault real or staged? Was she leveraging her pregnancy as a strategy to escape confinement under the guise of medical risk? And in the center of it all was Will Spencer, Luna's lover, the father of her unborn child, and the only Spencer who had publicly supported her. Will was blindsided when the news hit. He had spoken to Luna just the day before and sensed her unraveling. She had sounded tired, fragile, worn down by prison life, but not suicidal, not manipulative. When he saw the first image of her blooded face on his phone, his breath left his body. He rushed to the prison hospital, but was denied entry. The guards cited security protocols. The media had swarmed the gates, and no one was getting in without clearance. Will stood outside for hours, fists clenched, surrounded by flashing cameras, and shouted questions. "Mr. Spencer, was the attack staged? Do you believe Luna is using her pregnancy to manipulate the courts? Is this an attempt to embarrass your father? Every question was a blade? Inside the walls of Spencer Tower, the rest of the family braced for war. Bill, never one to let the narrative slip out of his control, ordered a media blackout. No comments, no quotes, no statements. Not until we get our hands around this, but it was already too late. Liam was one of the first to break ranks. Though his own relationship with Will had been strained for years, he couldn't sit in silence. He approached Bill directly. If she's hurt, if Will loses that baby, it won't just damage the company, it'll destroy this family. Bill dismissed him. The only thing threatening this family is bad judgment. Will let his feelings cloud his instincts. Now he's in the middle of a scandal that could bury us all, but Liam pushed. And what if she's telling the truth? What if she was just trying to survive? Bill's response was brutal. Then she should have done it quietly. Steffi and Ridge both monitored the headlines closely. Steffi called it a PR bomb with a heartbeat. She didn't trust Luna. Never had. Not because of jealousy or spite, but because Luna had always carried chaos with her. Ridge, meanwhile, watched the corporate impact. Sponsorships were pulling out. Endorsements paused. Investors began raising red flags. Hope confronted Will directly outside the hospital after days of silence. You need to control this. Will, either she's the victim here or she's not. But right now, you're letting everyone else tell the story. Will exploded. I don't care about the story. I care about whether she makes it out alive. Hope didn't back down. You should care about both. Because if this gets out of hand, no one's going to believe she's the victim. They'll paint her as the manipulator who cried Volfanju as the idiot who let her. Will's internal battle only deepened. He tried to meet with Luna again, this time through legal channels. Her condition had improved, but she was still under medical observation. When they finally allowed him in, he was shocked at how thin she looked. Her face was bruised, her voice raspy. But her spirit, her will was still intact. I didn't do this for attention, she told him. I did it because I thought I was going to die in there. They weren't listening, Will. No one was. You think I wanted this? He believed her. At least part of him did. But the doubts wouldn't fully go away. Did you provoke her? He asked. Did you push someone to hurt you just to get out? Luna stared at him, eyes hollow. Does it matter? You think I staged my own beating while carrying our child just to get air conditioning and better food? Will felt the knife twist. But outside that room, the machinery of power kept turning. Bill had hired private investigators to dig into the assault. If there was evidence that Luna manipulated the incident, Bill would find it and weaponize it. He was already feeding select details to friendly journalists. Anonymous leaks, hints that Luna had a history of dramatics, that she once faked illness in school to avoid exams, that she had a pattern. The narrative was shifting fast. Social media tore itself apart over the story. Hashtags trended daily. Free Luna. Justice for Luna. Manipulative Heather. Every video clip, every still image from prison surveillance footage was dissected. Was she faking the limp? Was the bruise real? Was the attacker bribed? The Spencer name, once a pillar of strength and control, was now the epicenter of scandal. Inside the company, junior staffers whispered in hallways. Clients hesitated. Carter, still recovering from his own heartbreak with hope, refused to comment publicly but advised HR to prepare for mass scrutiny. And Will, surrounded on all sides, was drowning. He released a statement. It was short, controlled, and carefully worded. My concern is solely for Luna's health and the safety of our unborn child. I ask the media and public to respect our privacy during this time, but it wasn't enough. Brooke stepped in. She urged Will to come clean whatever the truth was. If she staged it, people will find out. But if she didn't and you stay silent, you're letting her be crucified. Hope agreed. You can't protect her by hiding. You have to fight out loud. So Will made a choice. He went on camera, sat down for a live interview. No pre-written questions. No PR filter. Just honesty. He spoke of Luna, of how she'd survived months of isolation, public shame, and a system that treated her as disposable. He didn't deny the rumors. He addressed them head-on. If she did provoke someone, it wasn't out of manipulation. It was out of desperation, a cry for survival. That prison wasn't built to protect a pregnant woman. It was built to forget her. The interview went viral. The tide shifted again. Now the pressure was on the Department of Corrections. Investigations were launched. Advocacy groups called for reform. Other inmates came forward with stories of medical neglect. And Bill, watching it all unfold, realized that Will had done what he feared most. He had made Luna human in the eyes of the public. But Bill wasn't done. Behind closed doors, he began working with legal teams to challenge Will's custody claims. If Luna were to be released, Bill would fight for full custody of the baby. He claimed it was to protect the Spencer legacy. In reality, it was a move to sever the tie between Will and Luna permanently. The family was splintering. The storm had only just begun.